like that.
What's going on, Bills fans? Welcome into the Triple Coverage Podcast. I am Lance Nelson. To my left, Scott Casson. To my right, Benjamin Shoop. What's up, Shoop?
Nothing much. I'm just going to go out and let everybody know, though, early on here, as Lance would like me to let everybody know, we are actually this is going to be our last Friday show, just for anybody wondering. And next week we will be on Thursdays, same time, same place,
Same bat time,
just different day. And same bad takes from me. No, but yeah, we'll be on Thursday next week, last Friday show. But other than that, though, still great week for Buffalo sports fans. I think got to see some extensions. I know for Sabres it was kind of a crazy day for them as well. But overall, fun week for Buffalo sports fans, and next week will just be even more fun.
Scott, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, not much. Excited to talk some Bills. We're in that kind of. The NFL does a great job of staying king all year round, but kind of like in between the combine and the draft is kind of that dull period. So excited to hopefully have some stuff happen in the next week or so. Restructures, free agency, legal tampering period starts next week. Really excited for that. But these 2 weeks here are just kind of like looking forward to what's gonna come. So. Yeah, excited to get into
that's
it.
really cool. The next Thursday show will be will be very close to the opening of the league year, so we'll be able to bring some more relevant content as soon as it's happening with next Thursday's show. So excited to move to Thursdays. Appreciate the opportunity to have a little more time on the weekend for the boys here who like to get down, as they would say. I'm a family man, so I'm just going to be home.
Is that
either
what
way,
they say?
But, I'm not sure. That's what they used to say when I was young. But anyways, go out, check out our sponsors, Buffalo Belia Sports and More and Monster Energy, the official energy partner of Built in Buffalo. Like and share this with your friends, please. Let's get a good crowd here, and repost if you're on X. Like it there as well. Subscribe to that YouTube channel for Built in Buffalo. Give us some likes and comments there as well. Stay relevant, stay active in the comment field. And let's have some fun with this show. First thing we're going to do is just do a small recap of the combine, just kind of give one player who rose and one player who fall that we each liked. So, Scott, you want to start us off? Just give us a slight combine recap, what you saw. I know that you are heavy into college football, so there's probably a million ways you could go, but just give us kind of one riser and faller and any other kind of tidbit or just like general feeling from that.
Sure. So the combine it's becoming interesting. Not that many guys work out at the combine anymore. Like most guys just go for the interviews, they go to get measured, and then they don't do the workouts. So a lot of the guys you're going to see picked on day one didn't work out. A lot of them save it for their pro day, which is sometimes more fun to see. They can work out on their own terms. And for a lot of the quarterbacks, it's about getting their receivers, getting their other guys, like getting more people to come to it. So not a whole lot of like your Travis Hunters, your Shadoras, your Cam Wards, like they didn't work out at the combine. So not really seeing a ton there, but it's a great opportunity for maybe your smaller school guys to rise, to get on the map. So I always love it as a D3 guy myself, always love it when you see a D3 guy there representing. I don't think they're any at the combine this year, but at the Senior Bowl there were. But as far as my guy who went up, not a small school guy from the SEC from Arkansas, but Landon Jackson. He ran a 4.68 as an edge, which is very impressive. And then I think he set the record for vertical at like 40.5, which as a man who's 6'6", 264, it's very impressive that he can defy gravity from Wicked fans out there that much. So it's cool to see him. And then my faller is a guy that we talked about on the show as maybe a potential Bills guy, Isaiah Bond. Came out talking a big game, said he was going to break the 40-yard dash record, and then he ran in the 4.4s, which is fast, but it's not fast. So kind of a spin zone. Maybe this makes him fall later into the second round. Maybe the Bills can grab him at either like 56 or 60 or something like that. But would be a nice addition. 4.41 is still fast, but it's tough to say I'm going to set the record and then run 2 seconds, or excuse me, 0.2 slower than it was last year.
Yeah, for me, for my riser, I'm actually going to go with somebody different than I said before the show to you guys. I'm going to go with
Thanks for the frickin' notice.
Hey, I know that you guys chose, so it's not somebody who you guys chose. So I'm going to go, though, with Shamar Stewart. He was a riser who is also kind of went in a different direction because he was thought about to maybe even be a guy that could play interior. Came in at 267. That pretty much eliminates the fact that he would ever play interior. I mean, unless they bulk him up, but he'd really have to bulk up to play interior there. But 6'5", 267, ran a 4.9 or a 4.59. 1.58 seconds, 10-yard split, so really showing off that, and then had a 40-inch vertical and a 10-foot 11-inch broad jump there. So really just showing his athleticism, showing that he's a bigger dude in general for an edge. Probably going to be just a straight edge rusher then. So even though it kind of might take away from maybe Bills fans thinking of him being a guy that can play the interior for the Bills, still definitely a possibility. I know he probably won't fall to where the Bills are, but just a guy that I wanted to highlight as a guy who really showed out, despite now kind of solidifying himself as solely just a edge rusher.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Golden out of Texas, running that 4.29 dash, probably puts him up in the top of the first round there. Towards the end of the first round, up to the top of the second round. And then Tez Johnson with his 4.5, 140 probably could surprise some people or make them cool off on him. And if they did cool off on Tez Johnson and allow Brandon Beane to take him later than expected, I would not be upset about that whatsoever. Overall, some people were talking, about what does this show you? What does that show you? The Combine's just a great experience to show athleticism for all the guys, and usually doesn't correlate a whole heck of a lot into what they're going to do in the league. But there's been guys like DK Metcalf who came out and showed their athleticism at the Combine, and that correlated to the field as well. So there's been lots of players who have been Combine heroes and failed in the league, and then lots of players who excelled in the Combine and maybe weren't as noticed in college, and then crushed it in the league as well. So yes, everyone's different, obviously, and what we're really looking for is the tools and athleticism to be utilized by a team properly, and that's really what it is, right? So the guys get the right situation and getting the right usage from a team, and they can really skyrocket from what they were projected to what they actually produce. One of our guys that we could mention is Terrell Bernard, right? So he got extended today, 4 years, 25.2 guaranteed, and he was a third-round pick. People thought he was a reach, things like that, but put him in the right situation, played to his strengths, and he seems like he's working out pretty well. So what do you guys think on that Terrell Bernard extension?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. He was a guy, one of the two guys that I said we got to sign immediately. It was Bernard and Benford, and Bernard gets paid. I just think, I know people are skeptical about his injuries at times, but some of his injuries didn't have to do with his size. Some of them did, but like twisting his ankle, that didn't have to do with just because he was a smaller linebacker. You just twist your ankle. It's an unfortunate thing. So I think you got to pay him, and it was a deal that, again, Brandon Beane does a good job of getting solid deals early and getting them before other guys reset markets, right? And that's, I think, what you're seeing with Bernard. You saw it with Shakir right now. Shakir got a pretty good team-friendly deal, and now you're getting one with Bernard, and he's going to be, I believe, around the 8th-ish highest paid off-ball linebacker. But, he can really do it all, and he makes game-changing plays. He's not going to, he's one of those guys where when you look at a linebacker, you say, how can he affect the game? And he can affect it in every way. He can make plays in the passing game. You've seen it. I mean, the one play that always pops into mind for me was when he played Houston, and he just made that play, reading, coming over the middle, turns, basically does a 180 and makes the play. And then obviously in the playoff game against Baltimore, just makes that a phenomenal play of punching the ball out. So I love the deal. I know some people are skeptical, but it's one of those deals I think that they had to make. And, if you were happy with Milano getting what he got, you should be happy about what Bernard just got. And he's here till 2029. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. And obviously, we know what he does on the field, but it's his leadership too. Like, he's only been a 2-year starter, 3 years on the team, and he was the only defensive captain this past season. So he's the green dot. He calls the signal. He's great pre-snap, great at getting everybody in the right spot. So I'm really excited about it. I think $12.5 million a year, whatever it is a pretty good spot for him. Just saw Zach Bond get 18. He's not Zach Bond, but somewhere, below that. And he's still, he's still really young. He's only going to get better. So I'm excited about it. I think it and Shakir were both pretty team-friendly deals, and big to get two of our major pieces locked up for the future.
Yeah, I was going to kind of mention that play that Ben mentioned against Houston. What makes that play special is his mental ability to process things and read and react and anticipate, right? So these guys that can anticipate in the NFL and be right more often than not are guys that can be kind of those special players. So Terrell Bernard has that mindset, has that special knack, has the it factor, if you will, for players that can read, react, and anticipate what the offense is going to do. So he's a special guy from that standpoint. And then he also has athleticism to back it up, leaping up with one hand and picking off passes in the middle of the defense during the season, and just other side-to-side plays that he can make. If we're being honest, he's not the biggest guy, but he plays and uses his size well. So and one of those guys that's put in the position to succeed because they know what his strengths are. And Roy Collins in the YouTube chat there is talking about being wrong. Look, man, like, I gotta say that I was completely wrong on Bernard. I called it a wasted pick all off season going into the 2023 season. Had no real faith in what was going on at the linebacker position, and he proved myself and a lot of people wrong in that regard. So kudos to Bernard for trusting in his process and getting the trust from the coaches and then making the best of his position. I think that's a super great story, and it's somebody who, like, they did a lot of homework on him. They did a lot of background on him, and they knew kind of where he was going to go. And not a lot of people outside of that building knew, like, really what he was capable of. And now he's shown it on the field the last 2 years. Fought through injuries, but deserves all and everything that he gets here from the Bills.
Before we move on, I do want to also I think this signing also, like you said, a lot of people had the same mindset about Bernard and were very upset about it beforehand. And that year where he took over is another reminder where when it comes to guys, you sometimes have to be a little patient. And I think even last draft, a lot of the guys, Keon Coleman, Cole Bishop, Dwayne Carter, these are the types of guys. I already see people writing Cole Bishop off. I already see people frustrated with Keon Coleman. Rookies, it takes some time sometimes, especially at certain positions. So guys like Cole Bishop, guy like Dwayne Carter, even though Dwayne Carter had a good season before he got injured, that these are just reminders where sometimes you got to be a little bit patient, and sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. Obviously Kyrie Elam was a guy that people kept being patient on, didn't work out, but Bernard's a guy you were a little bit patient with, and then he, now gets that extension and becomes a focal point and the captain of this defense. So I think that's a nice reminder, especially for a guy. The main guy I'm kind of speaking on is Cole Bishop, of a guy like, hey, he had a rough rookie season, but let's see what he's got going into year 2 and see what he has going forward. So, I think it's a good reminder.
Yeah, Sam Martin got cut as a punter. What do you guys make of that? Shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna make too much of it. Just I think it was, one, you save a little bit of money, and 2, I think he's getting a little bit older, and they might want to go a different direction. He did have a solid year last year, but again, he's not he's not a top tier punter in this league, in my opinion. So I think you can go out and replace him in a sensible manner there. So it is what it is. Hope the best for Martin, and I glad he was here and had some good games. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Anything
it
to add on
saves
that,
them
Scott?
very little against the cap. I don't even know if it saves them $1 million, which what you got to bring in for bringing on someone else at even at the minimum. But I know they signed Jake Camarda, the former fourth-round pick of the Bucks, to like a futures contract. So I guess they're going to roll with him. Also, wouldn't shock me if maybe Sam Martin somehow finds his way back to camp, assuming someone else doesn't pick him up. But yeah, saves them a little bit of money for now, but it's not really a groundbreaking move, even though punters are people too.
Yeah, I think you have to have whatever you need for the pre-June 1st, and then maybe post-June 1st once you're operating with all the different clearings of money happen post-June 1st, then you may be able to, like Scott mentioned, have him back in camp and all that stuff. So definitely something kind of weird that he doesn't really count too much, so not really going to save a ton, but at least maybe they're counting, they're pinching their pennies. I think Brandon Bean has a tendency to do that, so we're kind of not surprised by that. Other than that, there hasn't been there's expected to be like Roy says here, plenty of news from One Bill's Drive over the next 2 or 3 days. Stay tuned in to Built in Buffalo's network on social media pages and follow us. We'll have it. But yeah, I think we're expecting quite a few. I'm expecting quite a few restructures. I think that the plan to get cap compliant here would be nice to be restructuring some guys, and I wouldn't hate if they pushed a bunch of things to a few years down the road, 2028, 2029, 2030, and just made a heck of a run at this thing. Being in the AFC Championship game last year, if they kind of were more aggressive than we typically have seen, if they do push more eggs into the basket of this year and trying to make the run at the whole thing, we'll see what they do. But what do you guys think about many potential restructures and the fact that we haven't seen any yet?
Yeah, they're coming. It's just a matter of when. All the big names will be. Josh will be restructured in some capacity. He has to be. Otherwise, we won't be cap compliant no matter what we do. So whether it be an extension, which is what a lot of people think is going to happen, or just a simple restructure like years past. He's on his bachelor party this past week, so maybe he's not sober enough to sign a contract. Who knows? Dion, I would imagine restructure him. Milano, all the big money guys. That Oliver, as we've talked about, Brandon Bean, just builds them into the contract, which helps them move money around when they have to. So they're coming. It's just a matter of when. They have until Thursday when they have to be compliant to when things really start moving. So it's going to happen between now and then. Just unfortunately for us, it hasn't happened yet. So we have nothing really to talk about yet. But hopefully they do it next Thursday. Then we'll be first on it on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this comment up here just saying that, I think a lot of people are surprised, but at the same time, I think we have to remember Brandon Bean, especially when it comes to announcing the moves, they like to keep everything in-house, and then they usually announce them, just fire them off one after the other.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
They probably already agreed with Josh. They've probably already agreed with Dion, but they like to, announce them all at once, make them all official kind of at once. And it feels like, it is one of those things where it is one of those, it does build anticipation. You're waiting for these, you're hearing other teams make moves, and you're hearing this and you're hearing that. But yeah, the Bills usually like to, especially the big ones, wait till later to announce them. But yeah, I'm expecting pretty much all of them to come in within a 4-hour range of just, you're hearing announcement after announcement after announcement. But yeah, no, they're coming. And
hopefully not Thursday during the day though next week, because there's college basketball on. Or I guess that's 2 weeks. Not during the day. It's college basketball on conference tournaments.
No. Yeah. Well, either way, they probably will announce it. They want it to be during a time where it will kind of fly under the radar. No. But yeah, no, they'll come. Brandon Bean's already definitely got some stuff in the works, and yeah, I also am going to bring this other comment up as well. I hope that one of those moves is locking up Christian Benford. Even though I just want to warn people, I think if they do lock up Benford, don't be shocked at the number. It will be high if they do lock him up, and I think some people might be shocked at the number, but he's a guy they got to lock up, and he will deserve it. But yeah, I think you'll probably see between 8 to 10 moves within the next week with the team when it comes to restructures and everything like that. So they're coming.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not super anxious about it. They have time. There's no need. I know everyone wants things now, but it's what it is. So let's go through some of the trade rumors. I guess real quick, if you want to mention Ben, we can just mention real quick. Geno Smith did get traded to the Raiders, and Gus Edwards just got cut by the Chargers. So there's a couple of moves that just came through. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say a couple of things about Geno or not, Ben. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm just shocked by the Geno one. I'm just going to simply say that. I mean, for Seattle, it makes less. I guess after we started talking about it a little bit, it makes less sense for Seattle to make the move right now than for the Raiders. And then, yeah, I mean, I did not know about Gus Edwards. He was a little bit injured and banged up this year and kind of just couldn't stay healthy. And by the time he got back, J.K. Dobbins had taken over. So, maybe he's, if they can't get a Ty Johnson signed, which I also like the comment from John here. I'm just going to guess that they haven't signed Ty Johnson just because I think Ty is going to want to see what's on the open market. He could end up getting more from a team like the Bills. So that's my guess of why he didn't. But yeah, when it comes to Geno, not too much, but definitely an interesting move.
Yeah.
Good for them. I mean, Geno's not going to move the needle a ton. I get it for the Raiders. Pete Carroll, that's his guy. Seahawks, I don't know, who are they going to get to play quarterback? I don't know, literally anybody else. They'll be in pretty much the same spot. So not a real needle mover for me.
Yeah, for sure. Scott, do you want to start somewhere? Any rumor or any sort of whether it's trade, free agency, or anything that from the obviously the outline or whatever you have in your brain right now, as far as
it's a scary place.
any trade rumors or signing rumors or otherwise?
Sure. So I guess we'll start with the biggest one, the Myles Garrett rumor. I said this a couple of weeks ago. I still don't think he's going to get traded. I know a lot of people are like, give him whatever they want, but like, good teams don't get good by trading away their best players. Like we just saw it with Max Crosby, and I know it's a little bit of a different scenario. I also didn't think Max Crosby was going to get traded. There was some rumors, and then they gave him a big extension. Like that seems to be what this happens more often than not. And I think people forget just because a guy asks to be traded does not mean that the team has to do that. Like they're contractually obligated to play for that team or no team. Like they can not show up, or they can, Le'Veon Bell it if they want. But just because you want to get traded doesn't mean they have to do that. So it's going to take a lot to get him. I don't know if any team is going to give that up. Would it be a big needle mover for the Bills? Absolutely. But kind of like all of these guys, Metcalf, Garrett, Hendrickson, I'm not really getting my hopes up for any of them because I don't think any of their teams are going to want to trade them. The Geno thing, I guess, does change DK a little bit because if they really are resetting and they're trying to load up picks, maybe they're eyeing one of these quarterbacks they want to go up and get. They get a first for DK. They just got a third for Geno. So it's interesting, but, I cautious all of Bills Mafia. Don't get your hopes up for getting one of these big guys because it doesn't happen often because teams, don't forget what movie it's from. I think it's from a bad Adam Sandler movie. I think it's from like Just Go With It. And he's like, yeah, rich people don't get rich by giving away all their money. Good teams don't get good by trading away all their good players.
Yeah, for me with the Garrett especially, I'm going to touch on him first. He's a weird one because I do think he gets traded. I just don't think it's going to be for a long time. I think that the Browns owner, especially, I think his relationship's already getting sour. I mean, he won't even meet with Garrett. That's not exactly a great sign. But I don't think they move him. I don't think they want to move him, but I think he ends up holding out there. I think he's going to end up, if it gets to August and training camp starts, he's not going to practice. He's not going to show up because he's made it very clear he doesn't want to be there anymore. And I don't think money is going to help this situation right now. Obviously, who knows what happens over the next few months? It could all of a sudden in a week from now, they could be like, oh yeah, we gave him $36 million and now he's staying in Cleveland. But for me, especially being a guy where it's like you're seeing Garrett getting older, he wants to win, and the Browns are in a weird spot right now where they don't have money. They don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I mean, it's really just like, where are you going? You're going to have probably let Nick Chubb walk, so you're going to have just holes everywhere. So I do think he ends up getting moved, which I think for the Bills could be a good thing if they wait, because that just will tank the value and then more and more. And might require less as time goes on. So Garrett for me, I do think he gets traded. I just don't think it will be anytime soon. So if you're a Bills fan and you're hoping to get Garrett, I wouldn't think it's going to happen before the draft. I don't even think it's going to happen a month or two after the draft. I think it would happen right before training camp, even maybe during training camp. So Garrett, I think he gets moved eventually. DK Metcalf, it's sounding like New England is the front runners right now, and it makes sense. They have $150 million that they could spend, and they have the assets. So it sounds like I know Bills fans want Metcalf, and he would be great, but I don't think he's going to be a Bill. I think if he does get traded, which I think he will, I don't think it will be to Buffalo. And then the last one I'll touch on is Trey Hendrickson. I think he gets traded as well, but I don't think Cincinnati is going to even give a thought of trading him to the Bills. I mean, I think they would require the Bills to give up a lot more for him to come to Buffalo. So Garrett's, I think, the only maybe realistic-ish one to come to Buffalo, but even then, I don't think it will happen for a long time.
Yeah, I do want to touch on this, John, not to call you out or anything, or it's a good comment. Your opinion's relevant, but he played through a lot. I think he's done right by his organization throughout his career, and he's just tired, and he's not happy. They haven't done right by him by putting themselves in a position to compete for a championship, and he's a competitor. He wants to compete, and there's a perfect comment in regards to that. So if we're gonna do one of these things, obviously getting the best defensive player available is my preference as well, and Myles Garrett. But I don't know if there's too much. The thing I struggle with when it's the Garrett talk is, who do we keep with him? So do we see Von Miller and Myles Garrett on the same team? I would almost think that Rousseau might be included in the deal if we're making that deal, or are we able to keep Rousseau and Garrett? And that's where I really wanted to touch on with you, with you guys and Scott, get your opinion on this too, is just if the Garrett trade happens hypothetically, then are we keeping Vaughn enough to play with him for 1 year? Do we get a Garrett, Vaughn, and Rousseau? I don't think that those what more can we keep on the defensive line to go with him, other than on the edge, especially, I guess.
So I would be surprised. Actually, having a conversation with my buddies about this today. I would be surprised if any player, if we do trade for Myles Garrett, goes with the pick jamboree, whatever you want to call it. All 15 of them they're going to want. Just because one of the reasons if they do trade him would be to shed some salary, because they're in salary cap hell. I know they just restructured Deshaun Watson, but there's only so much you can do with that contract they gave him. So
Great
I would be
contract.
kind of surprised. Yeah, if they want, I'd be kind of surprised if they wanted a Rousseau back, because that's 15 million cap for this year going back that way, and it's a little bit of savings, but not that much. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like if they get Myles Garrett, Von Miller would probably be cut, but I think he probably gets cut anyway. If they're going to do that, I don't know if getting Myles Garrett would really change their plan for the D-line that much, because Von Miller last year, who was mostly just a third down specialist, I'd imagine this year, another year older, another year wiser, he's just going to be even more of a third down specialist, even less than he did before. And Rousseau isn't going to come off the field because he's so good against the run. And maybe if they get a Myles Garrett and keep Von Miller, I would say maybe third down is Garrett and Vaughn instead of Rousseau out there, because he's not the world's best pass rusher. So,
but he can be from the interior, in my opinion. So that would be, so maybe, dude, you have Oliver Rousseau inside with Vaughn and Garrett on the outside. It's dude, that's pretty legit. But how realistic is it? Probably not really.
Yeah, and that was what he did so well at Miami. On third down, they would put out 4 pass rushers, and he would play in the middle, and the other rushers would beat on the outside and just step up to him. That's how he got 15 and a half sacks or whatever it was. So,
plus with that big body in the middle, you can bat down some passes over the middle, which the Bills have been susceptible to giving up on third downs. Some of those quicker things, if he's able to get his arms up, and could really be a weapon in that regard. I don't think it's very likely, but dream scenario is figure out a way to get Vaughn's cap number down enough to where you're comfortable, get the Myles Garrett deal done, and then figure out Rousseau. I don't know. Maybe you just have him for this year, maybe, and then after he plays out this year's contract and you see what happens from there. But yeah, I had many dreams about those four: Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Myles Garrett, and Von Miller rushing the passer on a third down over the past few weeks here. So interesting scenario. But again, the likelihood for me of getting any of these guys in a trade is probably slim to none. Would also give the nod to Garrett if we had to pick one. And yeah, Trey Hendrickson, interesting, but it just like Ben mentioned too, is takes two to tango, and just don't think the other team is going to work with us enough to give us the deal we'd want for Hendrickson. We're not going to give up too much and reach for that kind of player, in my experience with Brandon Beane. So, anybody else available really that you guys think that it's worth looking into? I didn't have anybody per se that I'm necessarily banging the drum for them to go look into trading for, but you guys have any other names either?
I don't have a trade guy, but I just want to get your thoughts on this guy because it sounds like he's going to get cut, I believe. Cooper Kupp. I know he's another guy that might fit weird into the Bills offense, but a little bit older, a veteran. Who knows what he would want? We also know Von Miller's going to probably talk about being, recruiting him if he ends up staying here. But
so good at that.
Oh yeah, unbelievable, the best in the game. But I just want your thoughts on that. Do you think he's even a fit for this team? And two, do you think he would be in the realm of possibilities of being a guy that they could talk into coming here?
I don't think he's a fit. Maybe they could talk him into coming here because you get to play with Josh Allen. That's a pretty easy sell, but I don't necessarily think he's a fit. We kind of have Cooper Kupp at home and Khalil Shakir. Cooper Kupp plays mainly the slot. Shakir is better at almost everything than Cooper Kupp is now, other than experience, I guess you would say. Like, Cooper Kupp is old. What's he, 31? He's coming off his worst season of his career and another injury, and all of his numbers were down as far as separation and his analytical stuff, his nerdy stuff, and how fast he's moving, how fast he's getting out of cuts. All of those are down, and I don't see those getting better. So if he was really cheap, kind of like the conversation a lot of people had about Christian Kirk when they thought he was going to get released. If he's really cheap, yeah, we could bring in another slot guy because Kupp can play outside. But if he wants to get paid again, then I don't think it's a fit because he's on the wrong side of his prime, had the worst season of his career, was just hurt, and I think Khalil Shakir is better than Cooper Kupp at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not interested in Cooper Kupp overall for all the reasons Scott said. And we have Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. I don't see where he's going to help all that much, but we do need receivers. So if his cap number is right and he brings some sort of Gandalf wisdom with some skill to the room, we could have the potential. But I mean, with the cap situation the Bills are in, I don't think they have the free money to really not say waste, but really just spend on a guy that is a duplicate of some of the guys we already have. And I mean, they did say on the contrary that you can never have too many Curtis Samuels on an offense. So if that's what they're really going for and wanting to have 3 and 4 of the same type of guy on this offense to do it, but we'll plenty of guys. Roy in the comments mentions Josh Palmer for sure. Any rookie. This is give me anybody else. Probably. I'm pretty on board with not getting Cooper Kupp here.
We will see that picture of him in the Bills hat at least 10 times a day if he does get cut.
Hey, we're already seeing the DK before the draft one. All the time.
Yeah.
All right, James Cook's a deal that hasn't been done yet. We saw a couple other guys get extensions, and James Cook's been very vocal in the media about him wanting to be paid. I'm just going to go first, if you don't mind. I really wish that the guy would just negotiate in-house and not necessarily post all these things on social media. But overall, I don't think him posting on social media matters all that much to what's going to happen with this deal. And I don't think he's necessarily worth $15 million as a running back, but I hope that he gets what he deserves and gets what something that makes him happy, because I would like him to be a Buffalo Bill for the foreseeable future. I said if he does get that extension, I will go purchase his jersey. So I'm on board with Cook getting that extension. I just don't know the price is exactly what the Bills or a lot of fans might really expect him to get.
Yeah, I'm like I oddly don't care about the social media stuff, and I think part of that could be because we experienced Diggs, and Diggs is at a different level of being a social media diva. Like I've seen people comparing Cook to Diggs in this situation.
Yeah, it's not that bad. No.
Yeah, to me, he's done a couple things, but he hasn't bashed anybody. He's just simply saying what he wants. And yes, I think I do agree with everybody saying please keep it in house. But at the end of the day, especially for a running back, these guys have a shorter shelf life and a shorter career than most NFL players just because of the position. And with how the running back market is, it's kind of weird right now because, Saquon just got paid, and he's not on Saquon's level. But, the running backs, I think you're going to start seeing them get paid more and more over the next few years just because that's the way the game's going. So Cook for me is a weird one. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, which is if they do give him $15 million for, let's say, 3 years, I'm not going to be mad at it. I really won't. My only issue is then you're going to have to use him like a $15 million guy. He's going to have to play the amount of snaps that you'd pay a $15 million guy. So that's the main reason why I don't see him getting that extension for $15 million. I just hope it doesn't turn into something like a Diggs situation where he starts kind of becoming more irritated and seeing these other guys get extensions. And I hope that he understands that this is a business. I feel like he would, hoping that he has a brother that has been in the league and has dealt with this type of stuff. I'd hope that his brother would be like, hey, this is a business. And Brandon Beane's obviously dealt with this type of stuff before, but I'm weirdly okay with Cook doing this. Not okay, but I'm weirdly just like, I really don't care about him doing this. And, I hope that they get something done. I do think, and I do see Roy's comment here, and this kind of just made me think about it, is I do think that he could be a third down running back. It's just, again, are the Bills going to use him as a third down running back? That I don't see. I don't see him doing that.
Not until he can block.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, like we haven't really been able to see if he can block as consistently because a lot of the blocking downs on third downs, he hasn't been out there. So again, are they even going to put him out there? So I would be fine with 15. I guess I'd be like, okay, as long as it's an easy out after 2, but they have to use him as $15 million. You can't sign him as 15 and then use him as a guy that's getting paid $8 million. So I don't think it gets done when at 15 million. And I genuinely don't think that they get something done before the season starts, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think 15 million is way too much. Everybody's talking about how he commented on the Saquon Barkley contract. Saquon Barkley had double the amount of yards that James Cook had. Plays every down, is better out of the backfield, is a better blocker, hurdled the guy backwards. James Cook never even hurdled the guy frontwards. No, but yeah, I don't really care about the social media stuff either. I think that's just like him being bored on his phone and doing whatever. From everything that like McDermott and Brandon Beane have said, he's a great guy in the locker room. I don't think it's like Diggs because you could tell things were off with Diggs. Like they said all the right things, but like McDermott damn near teared up when talking about like what a good teammate James Cook was at his post-season press conference. So I would like to have him around, but also like it wouldn't be the end of the world if they didn't bring him back to me. Like they found him in the second round. He had a good season last year. He had a very good season last year. He was probably outside of Josh Allen the best player on the offense, but I don't think that's super exclusive to him because like when Ray Davis played, he did well. Look at Ty Johnson. So I'm not saying you plug someone else in there and he's James Cook, but I think you could find serviceable enough players for cheaper than $15 million if he's dead set on that. I also don't know if he's dead set on $15 million. He could just be one of those dudes who gets high and jokes around on social media. Like a lot of NFL guys who do that. So who knows what he really wants? I know they're working towards it because it's the way it seems, but. Yeah, I don't think it's 15. If they can get him around 10, I think that'd be ideal. And if he's dead set on 15, then hey, like, nice to have you. We had fun, but on to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. Love that. So anything from the comment section here before we move on?
I mean, I guess we could address this. From John, I haven't heard anything, but maybe thoughts on Javon Holland. I know that probably was just autocorrect or something. Javon Holland, what would you guys think? And what is he? I don't even know what he's actually looking for when it comes to what he would potentially want.
Yeah, I mean, we had him on our graphic, right, for the thumbnail this week, and it was someone who I thought the Bills could bring in. They're at like a weird spot where like Rapp is, I think, going into his contract year, or he has maybe 1 year left, and he's hurt a lot. So then you have a second-year player coming in Cole Bishop, unproven, and it's like, do you want to have a guy where you can maybe sign him to a deal? He's young, you can get him for 4 or 5 years, and just have a kind of a guy that's solid in the back line of your defense. I'm in favor of that, and I was going to go through it a little bit more in the defense free agency talk that we're about to enter into. But yeah, Holland's like a pretty good target for me because you want to have a sure thing in the back of your defense, and I think he gives you like more stability than what they have now.
He's going to be expensive though.
Yeah,
they're saying he's going to want like $17 million a year, like Buda Baker type money. If we're going to do that on defense, I don't think it's going to be for a safety. So he would fit in well. I think he would do well, but I don't. We ain't got Jalen Holland money, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there with Scott with. It'd be nice, but especially looking at safeties who have gotten contracts recently at his age when it comes to it, or just at his age in general. Like Jesse Bates when he was 26, he got $16 million per year. Xavier McKinney got almost 17. I mean, Antoine Winfield just got 21. Obviously, that's a different level of contract. Minka Fitzpatrick got 18 when he turned 25. So it will be tough for him, for Javon Holland to work it out with the Bills. I would love it, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with Scott there. Just is it?
I don't know. I mean, there's not that. What are they going to do with the other positions before we can really say what they want to spend? I mean, if they're looking to lock down, safety is an important part of this defense. They've been able to draft and do well. They got Poyer and Hyde at good numbers throughout their careers to play at a high level, and this is a guy you'd have to spend to get that production. And I don't know. There's just uncertainty at that position, so it's like
I don't think it was that bad to warrant that much money, though.
For me,
I think Cole Bishop had a good second half of the year. I like Taylor Rapp when he's healthy. You draft somebody when he's healthy is the big part. But
I do think also there's more important needs when it comes to free agency. Like I think corner is significantly more important right now than safety, than spending. Like if you're going to spend $15 million, I'd rather even spend $7 million, $8 million on two different corners than go get one safety at 15. Now, again, I won't be if they end up going to pay him 18 to 17 million. It's still a great player, but for me, it's just I'm corner is the number 2 thing right now for me to go get. I kind of been somebody who I know before the show I even said it. I think it's not being talked about enough of how big of a need it will be. Because are you going to trust drafting a corner? Are you going to trust bringing in a guy that on a 4-year deal or $4 million deal that's kind of a lower risk player, but like you need to get somebody else. And I saw Charvarius Ward, excuse me. He's an option. I saw who did I see mentioned a little earlier as well for the Eagles here.
Darius Slay.
I saw him. I mean, who knows what they'll want. I mentioned a couple guys a few weeks ago, like Dante Jackson. I did mention a guy like Stephon Gilmore, obviously, which would just kind of be funny. But, there's a lot of guys. Who knows? Rasul Douglas, if they could get something done with him, I don't see it happening. But, there's a lot of options out there. I personally can't. I'd rather draft safety, sign corner than sign safety, draft corner. Just because drafting corner to me is a very risky move. It's rare that you can get a guy later in the draft like Christian Benford. And are you going to waste an early round pick on a corner it's one of those hit or miss ones, especially in a draft class that isn't necessarily deep when it comes to corners compared to other needs of yours like defensive tackle and defensive end. So yeah, for me, when it comes to Holland, he's an interesting one. I'd love it, but at the same time, I would hope that they have a plan at corner first.
Yeah, our next topic was areas of need on the defense. So let's, you kind of gave yours, Ben. Scott gave your areas of need. If you want to do top three or whatever, I mean, I guess there's only 4 or 5 positions total that you can really go through. But where do you see it? Areas of need for the Bills defense to get this thing in the right position to win a championship this year?
I mean, everywhere but linebacker, really. And that's assuming Milano comes back, which I think that he will. I don't see why they wouldn't. But yeah, they need a number 2 corner behind Benford. Need at least a depth safety. You're going to roll with Bishop and Rapp as starters, which I'm fine with. When they're healthy, I think that could be a good duo back there. And then we need a one technique really bad. Need multiple guys on the D line. I think a big time edge is nice for the wish list, but if they don't get that, a couple rotational guys at edge, a couple rotational guys at D tackle. But yeah, everywhere but linebacker could use some talent.
Absolutely. Yeah. My number 1 is defensive end. They have Rousseau, Epinesa, Miller, and Solomon, and we're talking about the potential release of Von Miller. So that would leave them with 3 edges, and you just need more there. So that's a bigger need for me. Cornerback, like Shoop was saying, we have some guys, Benford, Teron Johnson, and then we have Elam, Ingram, Codrington with Hardy and Couch on the reserves there. But I would like to see an addition or 2 there. And then safety, we only have 3 safeties, and I'm just not 100% sold on Cole Bishop. I hope he comes in and plays lights out this year as a second-year guy, but I'm not certain, and we need depth there regardless. So we're going to need some people there, and then defensive tackles. Obviously, the next one in what Scott's mentioning is just like, yeah, that Kenneth Grant type guy from Michigan that stuffs the tush push. He stuffed the tush push in 2023 season against Alabama. Is like, that's really the guy, that type of guy, really, where we can get that push up front, because that's 100% what this defense was missing last year, is getting that push up the middle. So definitely looking for guys to do that. Yeah. So without hesitating, I guess that's the areas of need. We all think we need everything but linebacker. So that's pretty telling. But let's get into it. Give us a guy or 2, or go nuts if you want to give 3. Who are you targeting for the Bills in free agency? I already said in previous shows that Greg Gaines previously played for the Bucks, 6'1", 312, was a 4th-round pick in 2019 by the Rams, and then Bobby Brown, potentially 6'4", 324, Texas A&M, another 4th-round pick by the Rams in 2021. Either those 2 guys might be more cap-friendly folks that you can plug in and try to get the best out of them. So those are a couple of targets that I had in mind. Who do you guys think the Bills should target? I mean, there's some big names out there. How many of the big names were you going to be able to sign, or are we going to be able to get anybody that's kind of the one of those bigger name guys?
Yeah, you go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to give one guy. He just got released either yesterday or today, but Harold Landry from the Titans. Like, if we don't make a big splash at edge, he's a guy who is probably a bit more affordable. Some of the other guys, because we don't have a ton of cap space, but had double-digit sacks 2 of the last 3 seasons he played, had 9 this past season, so he's solid and not going to be crazy expensive. He's been in Tennessee. Maybe wants to go somewhere, win, and maybe take a little bit less money. We always say that, and they never do. So he was a guy that when I saw he was released, that kind of perked up. Wouldn't hate him.
Yeah, I'm going to throw out 2 guys that we actually talked about a little bit during the trade deadline a little while ago. First one is kind of to me like Holland, where market-wise might not be plausible, but that's Trayvon Mulrig. Because I'm looking free agency. I'm looking at secondary over D-line, I think, right now. Obviously, depth-wise, I think you look D-line. But Trayvon Mulrig, and then the other guy that might be a little bit more plausible, and I know, Lance, you're going to like this one because you know you love him, Andre Sisco from Jacksonville, a guy who might be a little bit more of a possibility. You know, his market right now is between 10 and 11 million. Young guy. Do you bring him in, play him at free safety, and then, you know, kind of have Bishop there with Rapp, and then once Rapp's gone, have Bishop take over? Who knows? I mean, he's 24, about to turn 25. He's not even 25 yet, so he's a guy played at Syracuse, so I could see him potentially being a guy that they look at, just because I think safety, you can get some pretty good guys on good deals there. And one other guy that I'll mention, where he is again another younger guy, but could be on more of a bargain deal, would be Richie Grant from Atlanta. So just 3 safeties I think that they can take a look at. Corner, I mentioned a couple names, but there's just so many guys that it's kind of all over the place with corners there.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate bringing Rasul Douglas back if you can get him on a good deal, but it's like you're going to sign him for a year or 2 at best, probably given his age. So would it be better to get someone younger or just have the guy with experience? I wouldn't mind the guy with experience. There's not if you want to just sign all the Syracuse guys that I wish they would have drafted, they can go out and get a Fedu Malifonwu as well, and just keep.
Yeah, well, Syracuse is a national championship contender every year, so it makes sense to get all their players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they got a couple of good DBs here, and we'll see if they bring them into Buffalo, bring them home to New York, let's say.
Yeah, we mentioned corners. I wouldn't hate this year. You can kind of hit on a little bit with a couple of your guys, Ben. If they, brought in a veteran for a year or maybe even 2, drafted a guy, let him develop, like someone who's stable, you don't have to necessarily worry about maybe, you mentioned Stephon Gilmore before the show. I don't know if it's him, or even a Darius Slay we talked about. Maybe not necessarily in their prime anymore, but still serviceable, still smart, going to win reps with their mind, not necessarily their athleticism anymore. And we because if this is a real go for it year, I feel like you'd rather have a vet out there than a rookie. So maybe they, sign a vet corner to a 1-year deal, kind of one last shot at it on the way out, which could be a Rasul Douglas if he's open to coming back for that. But then, roll Benford on the other side and then draft somebody, have him develop.
Yeah, I mean, corners, you mentioned a couple ones. Obviously, the one that we've also talked about a lot is Asante Samuel Jr. For me, it's just I don't know what his market's going to be, because he had such a great start to his career and then kind of has had a really bad year this past year. So who knows what he gets? Yeah, I mean, there's so many names out here. And then another guy that's kind of a little bit older, like you said, if you wanted to go after an older guy for a year or so it was Mike Hilton. If you just want to keep depleting the Bengals defense, obviously he was on a horrible Bengals defense last year. But still a guy who has experience, he'd be going into his 9th season, is actually older than Rasul Douglas, but played 1 last year. So maybe they go with him, but there's so many options at corner. And then obviously Charvarius Ward is another guy that people have talked about. His market value right now is around 15 million. Again, is it plausible for him to want to come here? And is it something that they want to spend that much money? I mean, he's about to turn 30. So do you want to spend big money on a 30-year-old corner? I mean, he's a great player. So obviously I think Bills fans would be happy, but kind of a weird spot with a lot of these corners.
I think that might kind of depend on where they feel like they're at with Benford. If we're going to give Benford $22 million a year, I don't know if they're going to want to pay high for another corner on the other side. So we may not have a Benford extension done by then, but I think how aggressive they are in the corner market next week could tell us an idea of where they think they are.
Yeah, and they're not typically going to go into the draft with a ton of big needs or holes. And I'm not sure that defense has any one huge missing gap.
Maybe?
Like one technique. You could say they have Daquan Jones there if they want him. I would give you that, but I'm not super impressed. But safety, if you think they're not on, I think they're on Cole Bishop. So it just is what it is. And then CB2, what do they think of Ingram or any of these, or Hardy or Couch coming in, or I don't think Codrington's going to be more than a returner at this point, but don't know what
Hey,
they
don't
think
forget about
about him.
Kyrie.
Are they going to turn to Kyrie Elam in a surprise? Nobody expects them to do that. I wouldn't think so, but like, we'll see, I guess. And so like the one, like, where's the one position where if they're going to make a move that's more of a splash than you expect, what position is that going to come at for you guys, Scott?
Somewhere on the defensive line, whether that be an edge and one of those big guys, or Jonathan Allen just got released today. Maybe they'll try to get him, because we all know Ed Oliver plays best when he's a strong one next to him. Didn't really have that in the playoffs last year, and he played awesome. So who knows? Maybe he's getting into the prime of his career. But yeah, somewhere on the D line, a game wrecker either on the outside or at the one technique is where I think they need it the most.
I'm gonna go quarterback. No, yeah, I think it will be corner if they do end up going somewhere, just because, like you said, Lance, are they going to want to go with a younger guy, inexperienced, lower option across from Benford, where Benford's proven a lot, but he still is a younger guy where, who knows what will happen this next year. Maybe he has a slump, and then what's going to happen? You don't have a cornerback one. I don't think that will happen, but I just think that they would rather have that backup plan there with, hey, we have a guy that is maybe not a solidified corner one, but a guy that is a mid to high level number two, could be a low level number one if you really need him to. So I think it will be corner. If not, I do think it will end up being probably interior D-line, like Scott said. Just you got to get somebody in there. But it's weird. I don't know if they even will make a splash with a guy even over, $12 million. If they do that, maybe they say, hey, this is another year where we like what we saw last year, especially on the offensive side. We'll fill the holes and get some guys in the draft and go from there. But I think if they do go big, it will be corner.
Yeah, I think, someone mentioned DJ Jones in the comments. I just think there's other guys that are younger that can be brought in at a lower rate and have as big of an impact. I don't think we definitely need like some veteran guy. The younger, the better, really, on the defensive line, I feel like.
We've been doing the veteran thing, and it hasn't been working great.
With that, like, is there any of the guys like that you would bring back, I guess, on defense? Like, if we re-sign any of our free agents right now, and that's Juwan Smoot, Austin Johnson, Quentin Jefferson, Jordan Phillips, Rasul Douglas, DeMar Hamlin, which of those guys would most likely be re-signed in your opinion?
I mean, just because he'll want to be here, and I could see it just as a practice squad, the first guy is going to be Jordan Phillips, but I'm going to go past him just because I think he'll end up being that, like a practice squad guy, like emergency if you need him. But I think Dwayne Smoot is a guy that you should look to bring back. He had a very solid year. I know he just turned 30, but it's a guy that has experience in the NFL, can play across your defensive line, and is just one of those guys that can do a little bit of everything. Obviously, not a standout, but I think out of everybody, Dwayne Smoot would be the number one guy that I'd see coming back.
Yeah, Dwayne Smoot was mine as well, and then also Jordan Phillips, just because he's not going to go anywhere else. I mean, I'm sure he'll find his way to training camp. Whether he makes the team, who knows? But I'd say Dwayne Smoot, yeah, and then maybe Rasul Douglas, but like Austin Johnson, fine with him being gone. Quentin Jefferson, fine with him being gone, even though he did lead the team in interceptions last year. Yeah, like I'm okay with those guys not coming back. Or no, Austin Johnson led the team in interceptions. Yeah,
Quentin Jefferson was playing like defensive end in some capacity.
Yeah, which was wild.
And I was just like, dude, come on, like, what are we doing? And I think they really covet that versatility, which is why Smoot could be back for sure. I think his ability to go in and out on the defensive line and play multiple positions definitely gives them that versatility. But like I said, for me this offseason, I think there has to be continuation of that youth movement. So I would love to see them get some newer guys, and that's why I kind of was looking when I'm looking at NFL free agents right now. I'm like, all right, like who's under 27 and who's not going to command a ton. And when they fill out the roster, let's like just get some of those guys in here. You have your leadership in place. You don't necessarily need a ton of wily veterans. Let's get some like young dudes that want to like work at it and, get some prove it deals or get some like, medium deals that are still maybe on sort of a prove it level, but they do hit your pockets a little bit. But I just don't want to see like the same old song and dance again. This is a chance really right now to kind of shake things up a bit, um, and this is maybe where they have to break their mold a little bit and go in a little bit thinner into the draft, where they're going to draft some depth and see if they can get some guys to come in that route. But they're obviously going to be making some moves over the next week here, and we're going to be excited to see kind of what they do between restructures, extensions, and cuts. This roster outlook next Thursday when we talk to you is going to be completely different, I expect. So with that, I mean, I guess, do you guys have any more thoughts you want to share?
I want your quick thoughts real quick. The one guy we didn't mention that is he even a thought to bring back? DeMar Hamlin. We talked about safeties. Do you think it's even in the realm of possibilities that he is a Buffalo Bill again next year? Or do you think they pretty much like, no, it's really time to go elsewhere here? So what do you guys think?
I think the ship has sailed, but I don't have like any huge reasoning other than like a lot of people are saying the ship has sailed, and I kind of just agree with it in general. It's ran its course here in Buffalo, and he was a nice player for the Bills when he came back. His story is obviously really great, but like it just seems like that's that kind of guy is just going to go and see what he can do in another with another team.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back, and I think you can kind of tell when they asked Bean about him. They were like, "We love DeMar. He's been great here." Like he kind of saying all of the things you usually say when you're not bringing a guy back. I think he wants to go somewhere and start. I mean, who wouldn't? I don't think he would start here next year unless he somehow beats out Bishop or Taylor Rapp is hurt or something like that. So I think he'll probably go somewhere. I think a team will probably, with a lot of cap space, will probably give him a decent contract to have him be a starting safety. I don't think I think he'll get more money in the open market than the Bills would give him to come back and be a depth guy. So, yeah, no, love you. Appreciate everything you did. Great story, like you said, Lance. But yeah, I think he's probably done here.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. But just want
to. The last question we didn't really ask out there is like, how aggressive is this team really going to be? Because do you think they need to be, one, and then do you think they will be, two, with any sort of swing move? I think we've talked that we don't necessarily expect a big move. They've always kind of been, they did the Von Miller deal and then they did the Stephon Diggs deal. Those were like the two big moves, but they haven't. So are they in the position now where they're poised for that next one, or is it like, how aggressive do you see these guys being in this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I don't. When people say aggressive, it can mean a million different things, and I think they should be aggressive to make one decently sized move, like a move that will kind of around the NFL say, okay, like they're going here for it. But when it comes to aggressiveness, like maybe you won't see 3, 4, maybe not even 2 moves that you're like, oh, okay, that's a significant move. Just because, again, Brandon Beane's not going to mortgage the next 4 or 5 years for one season, right? I mean, that was the whole point of kind of moving on from Diggs and saying, hey, look, we're going a different direction here, and we're gonna start, freeing up some money. And then now they're signing their in-home players here with Bernard and with Shakir. So maybe they make one big move, but I don't expect them to be. I expect them to be in the bottom half of the league with aggressiveness, if I'll say that much.
I think they're going to try to be aggressive. I don't know if they will be, because what we know about Brandon Beane, he's not going to make a trade. Like, he's not going to overpay for something, whether it be a trade, whether it be a free agency. Like, he's okay missing out if that means if he thinks it's going to like harm the future. But we did hear this all last season that like this was the year they were going to go for it. Last year was the rebuild year. They're going to have more cap space this year. They're going to go for it. So I think it depends on the stuff they do. I think this week will tell us, how much cap space they free up. What do they do? Do they extend Josh? Do they restructure / cut Vaughn? Like, who else do they extend? It's also possible he could be aggressive by re-signing all of our internal guys. Like if he gives Bedford $22 million, he extends Rousseau, which I don't know if we want him to do that or not, and then he extends Cook, like that could be being aggressive. Like that's a lot of dollars, that a lot of Terry's money that we're spending on internal guys. And it may not be looked at from the outside as though they made a big swing, but you just gave $200 million to our internal free agents. So I think they're going to be aggressive. I just don't necessarily know if it's going to be we go get a Myles Garrett type aggressive.
Yeah, I agree with my guy Brandon Shaughnessy here. Bills next year. I hope. I mean, I really want there to be that major difference maker on this defense going into next season. I said it already, a couple of shows ago when we talked about our priorities going into the free agent period here, and I want to see, and that's why like we talked about Javon Holland for a minute there. Like that dude could change games in a way, but you also did lock down your biggest game changer that's in house right now in Terrell Bernard. So that's a kudos to getting that guy. So they do have guys that can change games on this roster right now. We haven't seen anyone be a game in, game out offensive game plan wrecker. As a unit, they do a great job. And we'll see how that continues. But I would like to have, one guy in the building that they identify like this dude's going to be the guy. And it's hard to think that Rousseau is just because of the rotation that they run. Or maybe that's why it's hard to envision them with any of the defensive linemen because of the rotation they run on the line. Like, I don't know, there's plenty of third downs where we had second and third string guys in. So like how often are you going to see like those game wreckers in if they're not playing those starters and those ones on third downs deep in the season? That just, I don't know. It goes back to usage again. Like how big of a swing do you take if you're not going to use the guys that you have here aggressively either? So I hope they are aggressive, but like more so, like I hope they use those pieces more aggressively, next season, because it wasn't like it was a meaningless game in week 10 where these guys are not on the field on third down. It's like towards the end of the year, games you have to have, and maybe even the playoffs, where I'm looking at guys on third down across the defensive line, and there's no Rousseau, there's no Oliver, there's no Von Miller. I'm like, you can't. I don't understand how that happens. So how aggressive they are with getting guys is one thing, but how aggressive they are with actually using them, in the games, in these situations, I think is another too. And I think that we talked about that last week with the offensive guys as well. It's like you can be go get your number one wide receiver all you want, but are you going to use him enough to warrant spending the assets you're going to spend to get those players?
Yeah, but we talked about this before. Like Greg Rousseau played, I think it was 77% of the snaps last season. Myles Garrett played 76. Like for a defense, I know he rotates a lot, and there's definitely times when it's third down and you're looking down the field, you're like, who the hell are these guys? But I think Greg Rousseau, like he doesn't rotate the way everybody else does. Like 77% of the snaps is like, unless you're Max Crosby and you're just an alien, like that's pretty normal. That's like pretty high for a defensive end. So I don't know if we can give him the same benefit of the doubt that we give the other guys because of the rotation, because he plays by far the most number of snaps of anybody on the line.
Yeah. So we need to feel that. We need to feel that effect from him. If he's going to be that guy, you're playing 77%, then let's feel that effect, the Rousseau effect going into 2025.
Yeah. I don't got much more to add for you that you guys already kind of hit. But I do agree with Roy here, though. By the way, I just want to bring it up. I don't see a Garrett type of move happening, but I do think, he's got look. They every offseason they have a plan, they have a backup plan, they have a third plan, and usually they end up hitting somewhere in between that first and second plan for most of their positions. So I do think. I think more on the defense side of the ball, they'll have something that some move that they got in mind that is going to happen that, again, isn't going to be a Garrett type of move, but it's a move where like you said, Lance, where you go in thinking, okay, my confidence just rose a lot when it comes to D-line or corner two or whatever position it is. I do think that he has something up his sleeve there.
Yeah, DB or interior defensive lineman may be the more aggressive swing than like trying to get Myles Garrett or any sort of other edge rusher. I'm not sure, but Scott mentioned Jonathan Allen would be cool. Those are things that could be big additions because of the push up the middle, like we talked about, is going to be a huge talking point and concern going into the 2025 season. So. All right, like I said before, we are brought to you by Buffalo Billia Sports and More. Check out their Facebook page for all custom Bills memorabilia, like this helmet over my shoulder here. Really cool stuff that Frank puts out. He's got some Josh Allen MVP stuff he's been doing, and other great Bills memorabilia. And then you have Monster Energy, the official energy partner of Built in Buffalo. Greatly appreciate their partnership. Please like and share this on all platforms. Repost on X, like it on X as well. Go out and give Built in Buffalo a follow. If you're on YouTube there, hit the subscribe button and that little bell there to get notifications when we go live. Really appreciate all the likes and comments that we've gotten throughout the show. Helps us out on the algorithm. So thank you all for that. With that, we're going to be live again Thursday nights. We're moving to Thursday nights, so triple coverage will be live next Thursday at 7 p.m. With maybe a little bit of a refreshed look here and some exciting new stuff. We're still going to bring the same great content, and we hope you guys can check us out on our new night on Thursdays. So again, Thursday night, 7 p.m. for the 2025 season. We'll be over there, and we hope to see you along with us. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.